30 years ago tomorrow, the shocking news spread across town, across the country, and around the world with bulletin speed. Marilyn Monroe was dead. She was a huge star back in 1962, and 3 decades after her death, her star is still on the rise. Here is today's Inside Story. 30 years after her death, Marilyn Monroe is a bigger star than ever. At the offices of the official licensor of Monroe memorabilia, Marilyn has been memorialized on everything from clothing to calendars, coffee mugs, neckties, jigsaw puzzles, and even a wine called Marilyn Merlot. The man who markets Marilyn says he's only carrying on a tradition which Marilyn herself began when she was alive.
She actively marketed cosmetics and perfumes and men's shoes and a host of paper products like posters and greeting cards and calendars and things of that nature.
The anniversary means everyone's jumped on the Marilyn bandwagon. Entertainment Weekly, TV Guide, and People magazines have major stories on Monroe, and there's some new books by the score. Some deal fondly with her memory, but more, like the new Crypt 33, deal with the puzzle of her death. Crypt 33 publisher Steve Schragus says it's that mystery which lures readers.
She didn't die of cancer. She died in a very mysterious way, which to this day, 30 years later, everyone speculates as to what really happened.
In one new volume titled Marilyn, The Last Take, authors Peter Brown and Patty Barham have no qualms about claiming that Marilyn was murdered, since she threatened to go public about her relationships with the Kennedys.
She just got to be a real problem, and they didn't know whether her threats were serious or whether she was just making them up. But the word went out to Marilyn had to be taken care of. She was a nuisance.
I'm going to tell them about Jack and me and Bobby.
The makers of a syndicated TV special titled The Marilyn Files will come to a similar conclusion when their show airs next week, according to producer Mel Bergman.
On August 12th, we are actually going to tell you that. Who murdered Marilyn, why, and who the co-conspirators were.
But not all in Marilyn's memory is devoted to her tragic death. Fox Home Video, in honor of the 30th anniversary, is releasing the Marilyn Collection, a dozen of her movies.
Marilyn Monroe's legacy lives on with the Marilyn Collection.
And a man who has acquired a collection of never-before-seen photos of Marilyn will be touring them in exhibitions around the country. Ed Litwack says the photos, taken by Marilyn's close friend, photographer Andre Didianis, reflect the happier times in Marilyn's life.
He was able to capture a spirit of Marilyn that I think everybody really wants to see. It's a Marilyn that's innocent, a loving Marilyn, none of the problems that existed.
But perhaps the most peculiar tribute to Marilyn in this 30th year since her death is a limo-driven tour of Marilyn's life in Los Angeles. Dennis Smith of Specialty Tours will take Marilyn fans to such spots as Marilyn's honeymoon house with Joe DiMaggio, the apartment where Smith claims she dated Frank Sinatra, the Brentwood house where she died, and the cemetery where she is buried.
The procession came out of this building, and she was laid to rest over here to the left.
Tour guests are treated to one of Marilyn's favorite vices, champagne, at the crypt where she is buried.
Marilyn liked champagne. If Marilyn was alive today, I don't think she would mind people standing here toasting Marilyn with a glass of champagne. She would probably join in.
According to the New York Times, merchandising of Monroe memorabilia earns more than $1 million a year for her estate. The money benefits the Strasberg Institute, founded by Monroe's acting coach Lee Strasberg, and a medical center, which trains child therapists.